Parenting Facebook Live series. This week we're going to talk about birth and bonding. Hey, if we've not met yet, I'm Helen Swierszcz, parent coach and founder of Intune Parenting. I'm passionate about supporting and guiding parents as they consciously and gently raise their children for a non-violent future.
Hi, I'm Doula. Parents are drawn to me when they feel very strongly about having a sense of control and empowerment over their birthing and their bonding experiences. So that leads on, the bonding could be breastfeeding, it could be wearing a sling. And with the birthing, I do antenatal classes and we do dancing for birth classes, which gives a little bit of fitness and a little bit of education all rolled into one.
So Deirdre, giving birth for many people can be this really significant and empowering experience, but sadly a lot of women in Ireland will actually say the opposite is true, and that they find their birth can be, has been traumatic and actually disempowering, which then I think can have this knock-on effect where they end up second-guessing themselves in the way that they feed their baby, the way they just raise their children from that point on.
Absolutely. Well, there's a saying I think it's in Portugal, where they say that how you birth your baby, that's how you're going to parent for the next 40 years. So maybe that's, maybe you've given up control or your own kind of knowledge to somebody else to take over, and then that then follows you on into parenthood. But if you go into your birthing experience and you really kind of have a good, strong feeling of where you are, where you want to be, that then leads on into your parenting journey as the child grows.
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel more strongly about your decisions because you've made them yourself and you've done your own research.
Absolutely. So your work really, whenever you're empowering women in birth, actually it has kind of this knock-on effect, like I was saying, because the opposite is true. Instead of having this knock-on effect where they end up second-guessing themselves, after they've worked with you, they have this knock-on effect where they feel empowered, they feel great, they go into their parenting journey ready to feed in whatever way they want to feed and ready to listen to their instincts and just be themselves as parents and take all that on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's great. All about the instincts. Like, I mean, even I have a few new clients now, classes, and there's so she's pregnancy, but she thought you just go into the labour room, you just go into the hospital and you wait for the midwives and the doctors.
This was me.
Wait for everyone to tell you what to do and what.
Well, I know whenever I was in having Kevin, I was 23 and I kind of hadn't done any research into birth before I went to the hospital to have him. We had done like an antenatal class. It was like a weekend thing where we kind of like learned how to do things like change babies' nappies, but I'd already studied all that because I had prepared for the birth. I kind of thought I was going to go in and that the midwife or the doctor would just like tell me what to do. So I was going in looking for their permission and kind of expecting it, and then whenever they didn't actually give it, that threw me. And that's the opposite. I think that some women go in and they kind of feel a bit like, they don't want to ask for permission to do things, to get off the bed. And they're stuck to the bed in line, and it actually has a bad effect then on the way that they birth because they feel conscious of themselves or whatever.
Absolutely. And they kind of go in and you're kind of sitting, I've been there too, just kind of sitting waiting for everybody to give you permission to get off the bed. And a lot of times they're really good up in the hospital. They leave you to it. They kind of let you do what you want to do. But as you were saying, sometimes if you go in expecting and waiting for them to tell you what to do and they just kind of leave you in the room on your own, you're kind of sitting there going,
like get this kind of fight or flight going on inside your body, and then you're not actually setting up the whole oxytocin and everything that you need in order to be able to have a good birth experience. So that's it has this kind of adrenaline.
So that's what the dancing for birth class really kind of touches in on. It gives you, we've been really silly in the class as well, so it lets you kind of open up to just silliness around women, and it's lovely. And the movements are so
very nice.
Tie them around. I forgot my music.
I don't think we need music.
So this will just show you how simple it is. It's like when people hear dancing for birth, they might think that it's very you need to know how to dance, whereas really like the movements are so simple.
Okay, let me get this tie now before you show me. And also all this jingling might affect our sound.
Okay.
I hope everyone can hear us.
So you just start going all around. You start off with hip circles. Just doing big wide circles. And this can feel really good in your back, and you can make them nice and wide and go down.
do you know, I remember being pregnant, and I can nearly imagine how good that would feel. You know, that lower back pain that you get, and actually that's what you need to do, is to like twist.
And then you can like go up and down.
Okay.
And the other side, up and down, up and down. It feels so silly. And the first time you're doing it, you're kind of like, oh, am I doing this right? But really, it's about finding your own way.
Yeah, but you know, I can find how it would help. I can actually, I can imagine how it helps. Yeah. Exactly. So it kind of opens everything up, does it?
Yes.
It's kind of like, I can feel that. I'm not amazing. I'm not even. And I'm sure that if you leave baby in there as well, everything that would just work.
So all of these movements help move the baby down.
Right.
So and there's a hip knock. So you go knock, 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 and then we add a stomp. So we go stomp, knock, stomp, knock.
I've lost coordination. Okay. No.
Yeah. Stomp, knock.
Cool.
Yeah. So you're knocking on that door of birth. You're saying, I'm ready for this. Let's do
it. Brilliant.
I know what to do. I am wise.
Help with like visualization and everything whenever you're there in the birth, because you'll remember you saying things like that, like you're knocking at the door.
And a wise woman pose. So we reach our arms and we think our width apart. We sink our knees down a little bit.
Okay.
And then even from here, we just do rock baby.
Oh, that's lovely.
So we're wise women. We know what to do. Nice. Our instincts are there.
Yeah. We
just need to tap into them. So even you know, we used to see birth. You know, we used to live very close. You can just drop them.
Yeah, I put them on.
We used to see birth. We used to see, you know, we used to live very close together. So you would see, you know, aunties, your mother, everybody. You would have seen them giving birth. You would have seen them breastfeeding in the community. Right now we're very, you know, split out. We're in our own little houses, and we don't actually have that much interaction with our grandparents or aunties, and we don't know what to expect. A lot of people coming into me, they haven't seen a baby really in years, or you know, they've never held a baby. So we have I have these wonderful dolls, but they're actually weighted. Did you get to feel this yet? This doll is 7 pounds, but nobody believes me that it actually weighs 7 pounds. They're like, no way, that's not 7 pounds. And then they look at their baby, you know, when they're in for a sling contest.
Oh, Deirdre.
Oh, Rudy. And then next week
Okay, beautiful baby. Show us what you do with your sling, is it? Or what do you do?
Great. So I have a sling now, so I can show you just how easy it is. You know, so again, so I kind of support mothers from pregnancy right through to when they have their baby. So whenever they get their baby home, they generally find that the baby's not happy unless they're in their arms. And they don't realise that this is perfectly normal. Again, we don't see babies, we don't see...
And this is totally my experience,
exactly. So we don't realise this is so normal. I mean, they're just coming, they call it the 4th trimester. I mean, they're coming from being all cocooned up in your room, and they're all just lovely and cozy, and you never felt hunger, never felt cold, never felt even just this wide open space. So things like slings just come in so handy. You know, so it really recreates that womb-like feeling. So
I love baby wearing. Yeah, I absolutely love baby wearing. You know me. Yeah, and I've written up on. So everybody who's watching probably has seen written up that I used to run a business where I was making baby carriers.
Yes.
Baby carriers are huge for me. I just think that you know, the bonding that happens and just the convenience of having the baby in a carrier is just so much more easy.
You can make yourself a cup of tea. You could, you know,
you can do everything. And I know that when the baby's very small, you probably can do a lot kind of holding the baby in one arm. But when I find the real benefit of slings is actually when they get that bit bigger.
Yeah.
Where you kind of, you know, well, you'd still kind of hold them in one arm, but your arm might get tired and it might get heavy. And the sling supports it, you know, it spreads the weight out over your shoulders. Now, talk us through your rinsing for the. So this is right. I usually would have let that hang down. So that's lovely. That's really neat.
You can let it hang down.
It's so neat when you tuck it in. I love it.
Some people aren't a fan of the tail.
Yeah.
So they bring it down and in. So it's completely secure and safe. The baby is not going anywhere. He's got a really nice seat. Yeah. The knees are up higher than the bum, so this bum is sinking right down into the material.
That looks great.
And it's nice and cozy, and the baby's happy out. baby just loves it.
And do you know what I think is great just in terms of your baby wearing consultancy is that you have a doll like this means they don't even have to have had their baby yet to come and actually learn how to use it, so they can really use it from newborn.
Yes.
They don't have to wait until they've come home from the hospital and all the rest of it. You could be walking around the ward after your baby's been born and you have to be there for a day or whatever, and you can have your baby there in the sling instead of pushing them in that little trolley. I'd much rather have the baby in a sling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did use a stretchy wrap. I did have that. So that
stretchy wraps are great.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
But it's a bit more complicated. It's more complicated to use a stretchy wrap than to use this. This just went on so easy. Like
this, you still find it might be beneficial to book in for a consult with this because it although people say you make it look so easy. I mean, it did not come to me overnight how to use a sling. No way. Yeah. A lot of YouTube videos, and then I went off and done a course, and a lot of practice. Practice is key. So you were saying about you can use this, you know, the slings when they get bigger. So one way you can use this is, you know, when they get to around 3 or 4 months, people say, oh, I need a forward-facing carrier because they're so nosy, they just want to look around.
So forward-facing isn't really recommended, is it? Because the legs generally dangle down in the forward-facing ones. I know they've changed it. There's the Ergo 360 and different ones now that hold them in the right position facing out. Yeah. But in general, and I think sometimes a lot of the time babies can get like really overstimulated if they are put out, whereas at least if they're in this position, they can turn their head in and snuggle into you, can't they, if they want to. They're in a forward facing, they can't actually turn around. They just nearly fall asleep falling forward like that. No. You know, I can just imagine. I've never used a forward facing carrier, but I can imagine how it would. Yeah.
Now I wouldn't want to say never use that, you know, because you can use it for 10 or 15 minutes ago, but
and you know what? I think it's nice to at least holding your baby, because blog post that there's like this power, whatever you have that physical touch with your baby, you know, it's important. So if the way you're going to achieve it is using a forward-facing carrier, then thumbs up for the forward-facing carriers. But in general, we want ergonomic carriers, right? Ones that spread the baby.
Absolutely. You can just do so much more. I mean, so he was at the front when he was really tiny, and then move over to the side when he gets a bit bigger. And I mentioned breastfeeding earlier, so you can actually breastfeed in this as well. So I'm just going to bring the baby around into that cradle hold.
The main thing I use slings for. It makes it very discreet. You don't need any kind of cover. If you wanted to use a cover, you don't need a cover.
If you wanted, you could throw this over.
You know, isn't it? Yeah.
But again, it's your own personal choice. And also for doing this, I would really recommend maybe a breastfeeding top, or even just a string top that comes down. You know, you're just thinking easy access. If you have a t-shirt that you're trying to, or jumper that you're trying to pull up from the inside, it gets a bit awkward. So whenever it's like this, the baby can
before just to cut you off, I don't want to cut you off, but just that point that you make, because that's a really good point. But you know what I actually do, because I'm still breastfeeding Lily, who's 16 months, and whenever I walk to collect Laura from her school, I put Lily, and she's always in the sling. I don't really use a pram at all, really. So I put her in the sling, but it's actually her nap time, so she has Booby to go sleep to have her nap. And what I do, it's not really, but in cold, I actually do and a top, and I would top like that, put her like this before. You don't see anything in the back, so nobody knows that my top's pulled up, but it means that I have the cover from this part, because otherwise what would happen is I'd be walking along and she'd want to feed, and then I'd have to like pull down here and stretch out the top and all the rest of it. Don't do that. So there's another breastfeeding clothes, because I think breastfeeding clothes can sometimes, you know, make breastfeeding seem a little bit more awkward than it is. Breastfeeding is actually really, really convenient.
It's so convenient, and that's what we want. We want to nearly show how convenient it actually is. That's the baby in the sling. Another thing that throws people early in the breastfeeding experience is, again, they don't realize how much the baby wants to be held, but also like how much the baby needs to be fed.
Yes.
So like the size of the baby's tummy. Don't know if you can see this size.
It's pretty tiny.
So the capacity of that is, you know, this medicine spoon, between 5 and 7 mils. So it's either the big one or the big and the small one. That's their capacity for milk volume.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So even if you pop that in there, like, you know, so you see the bottles in the hospital, they're quite big, and you know, they're that size and they're filled, and then the mothers are kind of worrying, going, oh, the baby's spewing it back up again. So it doesn't have the capacity for that milk.
They don't need to worry if the baby doesn't drink the whole bottle. You can understand the size the baby.
That's the size of the tummy.
Baby's breastfeeding, the mother probably doesn't know how much milk they're getting, but there you go. They'll probably take that much and then they'll choose to stop, because they won't overfill themselves really anyway, would they? A breastfed baby will usually turn away.
Yeah, they're not going to feed if they don't need it. So for the first for the first 3 days until the milk comes in is about that size, and and there's a reason. Like, biology isn't wrong or isn't didn't make mistakes. So the baby's tummy is tiny, and then the mother's milk colostrum is really thick, and it nearly like paints the whole way down, and it's full of antibodies, and it kickstarts the thymus.
I didn't know anything about that. That's so interesting. So that's really where it differs from bottle feeding in those early days in terms of the volume.
Yeah.
So you're saying so the milk actually does go in, but it's coated the whole way
the
down.
whole way down, all the way through the gut.
So it therefore sustains the child nearly longer as a result of that, would it?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Is it right? Yeah.
Well, they would get hungry quicker, and that's why people. So even 90 minutes. Yeah, even every 90 minutes. Every 90 minutes is when, say, if they get full feed, and then it'll be nearly digested again.
After 90 minutes.
So I would say, like, if you're watching your baby, just I actually stopped wearing a watch whenever I had my second. Whenever I really kind of got into breastfeeding, I stopped wearing a watch because I heard the phrase "watch the baby, not the clock."
Yes, this is brilliant. I've heard this too. No, go on.
So if he started to move towards his hands, or even before that, if I seen his eyes kind of flicker, or if he started to root his head,
I would lift him. Even is nearly one of the last signs, isn't it? Though they do actually show lots of signs that they need to feed before that. So and it's kind of, if you catch them before they even start rooting, you'll never hear your baby cry. Like, it's actually they don't need to cry for your attention if you're carrying them in a sling and you feed them as soon as you kind of see that they need it. It's kind of one of the lovely.
I had a friend who visited Africa recently, and she said she never heard a baby cry. And then there's another thing that I follow, this blog. I mean, it completely shaped me to who I am today. It was really interesting. It was this woman who went away, she was traveling around the world, and there was this one part she was in, and she says babies just don't cry in Africa because they're held in slings, and they're breastfed just as and when they need. Even if the mother can't carry the baby, somebody else, a sibling. I even seen a show the last night. I thought it was maybe teenagers they started wearing their siblings, but this little girl, she was about 5 years old. It was gorgeous. I was like, oh my god, I don't think she was even 5 years old. Like, she was there. She was with the baby on the back, out for the count, fast asleep.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I can really imagine Laura carrying like a little baby.
Imagine Laura,
Wow. Yeah. Laura's my middle child, my daughter. That's incredible. Okay, wow. Well, I actually had seen, there's actually some really, really great websites that I read a lot about on whenever Kevin was a baby. And it kind of is what gave me, I didn't need permission, I shouldn't have needed permission, but I kind of felt like I needed permission to really follow my instincts. And one of them was called the Natural Child Project. Have you heard of this? Have you read any of the blogs on that website?
I might have gone.
Yeah, they've got these great blog posts. So if you're interested to look up and kind of learn more about what Deirdre was saying about like babies don't cry in Africa and all these kind of things, this woman, she's an anthropologist, and she actually follows in anthropology, she studies the way babies are naturally, and kind of how they develop naturally, and how children develop naturally, and not only babies. She kind of follows it all the way up. It's a really, really interesting blog that you can read, and you'll find out all that extra information. It kind of just gives you more kind of details about it, because she's an anthropologist, and I kind of love the science side of things. So it's great to kind of, to really go, God, that's why. I mean, it's one thing to witness and to see it with your own kid and that they do it. And of course, it's fantastic to follow your instincts, and just if you feel it's right, go with your gut. It most likely is right. But I love following my gut and going with my instincts, and then seeing that's actually backed up. There's actually a biological reason why they do that. And then you kind of go, wow, that's amazing, and it just kind of empowers you. Right?
Exactly. This is why, like, in my classes, if I'm teaching antenatal breastfeeding class, and I do touch on the actual science part of it, and then what other people do in other parts of the world. Because there is real reasons behind babies wanting to, feed often, and that it's because it digests quite quickly. So that's why then I actually seen one of the formula companies had a press conference recently. They things that they're not actually selling milk, they're selling sleep. And I can totally see that, because so many women come to the group and they're just so tired, and they end up, especially family members would say to them, such and such at work, their baby's 7 weeks old and sleeping through the night, or you might have a mother who she mightn't quite understand breastfeeding and just think you need a break, for you. Whereas the mother who's breastfeeding her baby mightn't feel like she needs a break from her baby. She might feel like she just wants to.
So to clarify, you mean like you might have a grandmother who's saying to the mother, you need a break.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So like the mother's mother.
Even
Yeah.
friends, anybody, might mean really, really well. They're concerned for the mother, but maybe the mother's what she needs isn't a bottle, and it might not be the answer. So the more
It's one of the amazing. My
Yeah.
mom really was amazingly supportive. You know, hi
Yeah.
mom. Hi mom. My mom was really supportive whenever Kevin was a baby. Because she came to the house and she kind of did. I know now that it's actually something that a postpartum doula does. But she did everything else, and she just left me sitting on the couch breastfeeding Kevin, and it was fantastic. Went on to be highly successful because he self-weaned when he was 3. So I actually went the long haul of breastfeeding him, and it was amazing. And that's what we need. I think that's what women need a lot of the time. Not necessarily somebody step in and do everything else, but just to understand that everything else can wait. And to just know that that's how the beginning of breastfeeding is. It's certainly the first couple of weeks. After that, it gets easier, and after that, it's probably less time consuming than bottle feeding, I would say.
I've done both, and I've seen both sides. And I remember one night standing at the kitchen sink, washing bottles, him getting really hungry, and I didn't have anything ready, and I still had to wash it, sterilize it, and trying to keep him happy. In the meantime, it was tough going. Whereas then, fast forward to number 2, oh, he's hungry. Okay, I'll just lie on the couch and feed him. Sorry, could you get that? I'm feeding. I'm really hungry. I'm feeding. I can't get up. Like, it's brilliant. It's Mother Nature's way of getting you to sit down.
Yes, Deirdre, that's exactly right. Exactly. So it forces you to take the rest that you need, that all women need after they've given birth. I mean,
take the baby to bed. Don't be afraid of that. That's one thing really, that when you're breastfeeding, you get far more sleep, because when you take the baby to bed, you just learn to co-sleep safely. In fact, you do it naturally. You bring your legs up like this, and you're kind of lying like this. I've demonstrated this so many times. And you'll naturally go into this position, and then the baby's cocooned in here, and if there's anybody else in the bed, they ain't getting into this cubby, and then that way the baby can feed on and off as they want. You don't even have to fully wake up, and that means then that you don't come out of your deep sleep. So you can go back into it much quicker, so you get more restful sleep.
I wrote about this in my book, which is the Intuitive Parent Sleep Guide. And there's lots of studies done by this man called Dr. James McKenna. And this is what you're talking about here. This is actually what he observed whenever he did lots of studies in a lab of women breastfeeding, because he talks about the mother and baby breastfeeding dyad, and how you're actually, almost still one person. And like you were talking about the 4th trimester earlier with the baby wearing, it kind of all ties into that in those first couple of months, human babies are so much less, mature and developed whenever they're born compared to some other animals and things. So they actually do need that extra hands-on, being cuddled and being held. And so in all his studies, he noticed that actually it's safer. I know that there's been loads of things said about cot death and all the rest of it, but in many ways it's actually safer once it's practiced well. And I mean, there are loads of rules that you have to follow if you do choose to co-sleep. Things like not having any pillows on the bed, not using a duvet, a heavy duvet. You can use like a little light blanket, or just like a sheet over the top of the bed you can put on just yourself. But I would always tuck it under me so that the baby isn't actually under any sheets, any blankets. I like to use, those baby grow bags on the baby.
Yeah,
I just think did you never get into them? Well, I like my daughter Lily particularly likes them. My older 2 didn't really like them, and we did end up using baby blankets with them after a while. With a baby blanket, you just tuck it around under their arms, and that's safer for them. What you're worried about is the blanket, usually in cots, and that's where all those studies have been done. But the thing that Dr. James McKenna noticed is that the mother just automatically, while asleep, responds to her baby. So if there was an issue like the blanket went too high or whatever, the mother will actually move that away. And you were telling me about something really interesting, like the baby's heartbeat, right?
The baby, when the baby's born, as you said, that they're very, not that they're underdeveloped or anything yet, but they're not fully quite there, so they can't really regulate their own heart rate, their own temperature, their own blood pressure. Whereas, so whenever they are separated from the mother, they might look like they're sleeping, but they're maybe they kind of go into shutdown, going, oh God, I don't know where my mother is. Whereas whenever they're resting on your heart, on your chest, they're just kind of their sense of smell is incredible. It's really, really heightened in the first few weeks, especially just after birth. So they're happiest when they can smell that they are on you and feel that they're on you. And then their body, I mean, like my mum, think about feeding the baby, wrap the baby up, put the baby down. Whereas what you really need to do is just keep the baby up close to you, and then they have constant access to food, so they can feed regularly. And then your body temperature, your chest can pick up the temperature of the baby. If the baby is anyway cold, or if the baby is getting a temperature, your body regulates.
Yeah, so your temperature reduces in order to help bring down the baby's temperature.
Yes.
That's how closely interlinked the mom and baby are at that age.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yes.
That's the truth, really, for any age breastfeeding baby, right? That actually does continue on with breastfeeding. It's what keeps it together. Is that correct? Or
I think I'm not 100%.
Is there an age, a knock-on age? I have no idea what the knock-on age is.
Yeah,
but
definitely when they're that
tiny
for the
small babies. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they call it like a mother-baby diet. They call it that, and it's usually linked with breastfeeding. I know all the studies that Dr. James McKenna did is linked with breastfeeding. That's why in the a breastfeeding mother. But, I know a lot of bottle feeding mothers would say, but I want to co-sleep with my baby too. There are safe ways of doing that too. Yeah. There are. But the issue is, and the reason anything you're going to read on the internet is all going to list breastfeeding as one of the prerequisites or whatever it's called,
to take the
baby into the bed. You need to be breastfeeding. That's because the studies that were done on the safety of breastfeeding were done on women, on the safety of co-sleeping were done on women who were breastfeeding. So that's, that's where that comes from. And just to understand that before you kind of go, oh, it can't be for me because I'm bottle feeding. There is a way. If your baby really, really wants to be close to you and really, really needs that, and you're not getting any sleep, it's better than you being, badly
Well,
sleep
this
deprived.
is where when they say
cough
death or what do they call co-sleeping, death by co-sleeping, whatever way they call it. When you actually look in, they tarnish co-sleeping for everybody. If you actually look in, say the newspaper or the media says, oh, another baby died in the bed.
Time it's on a couch.
If you actually read the story, it'll be that the mother was so tired and she was scared off breastfeeding or bringing the baby to bed, and then she ended up going somewhere cozy on the couch and falling asleep on the couch, which is much more dangerous because the baby can fall down in between herself and the cushions. Also, maybe there was another story I read more recently. The mother had a few bottles of wine.
Oh, well, alcohol is
there's things like alcohol
on the list that you have to no alcohol, no drugs.
Yeah, well, maybe like a glass of wine or something is fine, but not 2 bottles.
Not 2 bottles.
No.
And is one glass of wine is fine with it? I just haven't read enough detail on it to know that. Always what I've seen has said none. So I would have taken kind of a teetotal approach there with that. But that's fair enough. So 1 is kind of okay, is it?
Well, they generally say if you feel like you can drive a car, you can look after it, like you best.
That makes sense. Yeah.
For one person, maybe a glass of wine, it does affect them.
Yeah.
And then other people, a glass of wine is just like
drinking any other drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. I was going to say something else to you there now about that a second ago when you were talking.
About the sleep. No, about well, there was another study actually. I don't know if it was James McKenna or who done the study, but just when you were saying about the mother reacting to the baby as well.
Yeah.
They set up this room with a mum and a baby in the bed, so they had a lovely bed.
The heart rate one you were telling me before.
Yeah,
good story. Yeah.
So this baby had sleep apnea, so they were kind of concerned about it. So they set up the room, lovely bedroom, and they turned off the lights, and you had loads of monitors on the bed, so they could detect oxygen saturation levels, heart rate, all that rate of the baby and the mother. So so they were watching behind a mirror, and that was fine, and the mother and the baby fell asleep, and that was grand. So a little while into the study, then they noticed that the baby had stopped breathing. So obviously we're going to be a bit concerned about that. Mm-hmm. So they were watching and waiting, and I imagine is a big red button to press to turn on the lights and alarms and wake the mother and baby up. And they were watching, and they were like holding their breath, thinking, is this baby going to wake up or what's going to happen? And just as they were about to push this button, the mother absent-mindedly in her sleep just put her hand over the chest of the baby. Mm-hmm. I use my doll as a thing. She just absent-minded in her sleep just rubbed the baby's belly, and the baby started breathing again. And I mean, she didn't know that she did that. So we don't know how many times a night that happens for the breastfed and baby whenever they're kept close. Far less things can go wrong when they're kept close together.
Absolutely. Because because of the mother's temperature and everything actually regulates and keeps the baby right.
Yeah, exactly.
So lovely. There's so many lovely things. Oh, the other thing, the thing that I couldn't think of a minute ago, is that whenever you said about the baby's smell, when the baby is, and the mother's smell, when the baby is next to you.
Yes.
So that's another thing that I've kind of found important is, you don't wear perfume and things like that whenever your baby's a newborn. I think a lot of people, they are in a habit of wearing perfume, but actually can really help with bonding if you don't wear perfume.
Yeah.
Because the baby can smell your natural smell, and the baby wants to smell your natural smell, and that helps. It aids breastfeeding, doesn't it? It aids all the bonding and things like breastfeeding and all that.
Yes. And when you're on the subject of smell, it actually works both ways too. So if the baby has a hat on, take it off.
Yeah, I read about that too.
Yeah, there's there's very strong links between the smell and the I mean, you go in, you see a baby, you pick it up, you are inhaling that aura. You're just like, so with the mother and the baby, that is so strong. So that really helps with the bonding of smell. And this is
you're just totally there in that moment in your head.
So even as the mother's just relaxing and the baby's sleeping here, the smell, I mean, you are just on cloud 9. You will not want to put that baby down. So why not just get a sling to wrap the baby up and keep the baby there?
Exactly. A nice thing about the sling, another nice thing is, that kind of pass the baby thing that goes on when you've got a newborn. I think women just instinctively, they don't want to pass over their baby. There is like a feeling, you might give granny a hold like for a few minutes, but you don't want granny holding the baby for half an hour, like give my baby back. So what really helps is if the baby's in a sling, people are less likely to go, can I have a wee hold? Because they see the baby is so cozy and comfy in there. And usually the comments you get when babies is, oh, they're so comfy in there, aren't they? I love the baby, they're so comfy, just fall straight asleep, and all these kind of lovely kind of comments. So people still dote on your baby, but you don't really have to hand them over as, freely.
It's really interesting as well that you said that, because with the bonding, I mean, first and foremost, the most important bond is between the mother and the baby. And people do come to me and say, oh, but my husband or my partner, they really want to bond with the baby, so I want to express to give milk for the baby. Whereas there are so many other ways that they can. But first,
the daddy can baby wear.
Daddy can baby wear. Absolutely. But first and foremost, the most important relationship to that baby is the mother. So even in the early days, the dad can do so many things, and he might feel like, oh, but the baby doesn't like me as much as he likes you. His time will come. Like, I mean, and whenever the baby starts to kind of take a good interest around, then then the dad is the next important person. And then after that, when they start to get a little bit more, then maybe the grandparents can come in and stuff. So it's at the beginning, as you were saying, passing baby around, it's much nice. Your mum.
Hold on to your baby and just enjoy that special bond, because
but in the first few weeks, of course, as well, it is, that's not to say you're the only person that's allowed to hold on to your baby. I mean, it is
can share responsibility, of course you can. But one of the nice ways that you can share responsibility, I think, as well, is like what I said a minute ago, is daddy can baby wear. You can be the one. And one really, really lovely thing, I had a C-section with my eldest, Kevin, an emergency C-section, and whenever he was born, the midwife actually told Simon to take off his top, and they'd had that skin to skin, and that, that's how they bond. And Simon, I don't think Simon ever, maybe he'll tell me I'm wrong, but he's never told me that he ever felt that the kids were, all bonded to me and that he didn't have that time bonding. I mean, he had so many other ways of bonding. Like, he definitely held them a lot, and baby wore, exactly, and change nappies, and you can pass off to daddy to do those kind of jobs, and then as long as you're holding baby close and keeping for colic. Laura had colic.
The dad's brilliant.
Was great.
Something about the dad.
Tiger in the tree hold, I think it's called. Yeah, Simon used to do that with Laura, and that helps a lot. That's a good one. That's a really good one. And daddies, I think, stronger arms or whatever, they they do that well. Whereas your arm is great, and you're like, give me the sling back. Exactly. but what's good for colic as well is a sling holds the baby in the upright position, right? Wow. Yeah. So if they're going to, even like a refluxy baby as well, they're going to like spew up or something, they're up on your shoulder. When they're in the sling, you don't have to, and you can, if you've got older children, like for example, Lily had a lot of reflux, and I used to put her in the sling. She used to be in a stretchy wrap when she was a newborn baby. And after feed, you have to kind of hold them upright, or else they get very, very cranky and fussy, and it really hurts their little belly. So I used to basically have her in the sling 24/7, but anyway, well, not 24/7 because we slept. But but so she was
sleeping in the sling.
No, 12 hours a day, let's say, right? And I would, it meant that she was held upright. It meant I could make dinner, and I could do the different things, and I could feel useful in the house, because I think also that can be a bit of an issue. I know for a while after I'd had like a C-section and my mum was doing everything, which was amazing. After about maybe a week or 2 weeks, I began to go, I want control over my own house again. I want to be the one. I want to be the woman in control. I know I want to be the mom, and I want to be the one who's doing everything with my baby, but also, doing things in the house. And actually, that's when I got my first sling. My sister Emma, she lived in Dublin at the time. She was coming down from Dublin, and I said to her, get to Argos and get me a sling. So she got me one of those really, really awful slings that actually now have been recalled. You know, those ones that hold, it's like a bag sling. But you know what, it was brilliant at the time. I actually was thrilled with it, and it started me on the road of baby wearing. I went on from that sling then, when he was 4 months old, to get a hip carrier sling, which is basically like a ring sling, except it was a buckle there instead of rings. Yep. And that's how I kind of started my baby wearing journey. But my original point that I was talking about there was, with Lily, I had her there upright after a feed or whatever. She was in the sling, in the stretchy wrap. Meant that if she did a little spew or whatever, she was upright, didn't have to worry about her. And I was able to get on with all the jobs around the house and look after everyone, look after the older children, you know. So
I'm just going to show you a bit now. I found with Evan, my third, there was times that he was, you know, he wanted to feed, he didn't want to feed, he was on and off and on and off. And then I thought, oh, what will I do? And I thought, I'll just put him in the. So then I found, as I was putting him in and bringing this up, I got him into his seat, right? So his knees are up higher than his bum. And then just as I started to bring this material up, I don't know, was it a combination of the position he's in, the moving the sling up, but he would either burp or puke all over me. So I was like, yay! Okay. And then he would settle, and that was what was wrong. That needed brought up.
So even that motion of, I mean, that is what they teach you when you're birthing the baby.
Yes.
Like, that's the motion, is that you start at the bottom and work your way up the back.
So I wonder if that combined with the seat that he was in.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, especially because they're kind of sitting like heavy down like that into the seat. Is that what you mean? Yeah, that their legs or whatever with their belly.
The seat.
Yeah,
their
knees up.
Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, that is. It's amazing. So there's another benefit of a thing that you probably won't see listed in those lists where they say the benefits. One of them is you can burp your baby while putting on your sling.
Exactly.
It's a good one.
I'd imagine as well for colic and pain. Do you know yourself, if you have a sore belly, you'd get something warm on your belly or a hot water bottle, whereas if they're against the warmth of
the sling really helps for that. I mean, my two girls both suffered with reflux and with colic. Both of them had it to varying extents. I think Laura was kind of worse with the colic and Lily was kind of worse with the reflux, but they both had both symptoms of both. And definitely things like wearing them upright, holding them upright. It's more about holding them upright, but when you wear them, they're automatically in that position and you've got your hands free and you've got all those extra benefits. But I found that was a benefit of baby wearing for me. Led to me wearing my baby. I'm saying wearing, that's actually a phrase that was coined by Dr. Swierszcz. So just in case anybody doesn't know what that is,
Dr.
baby wearing actually just means putting your baby in a sling, carrying your baby, right? So it meant it was easier to carry the baby because they were, in clothes, in your sling, in a piece of cloth. So he calls it wearing your baby, which is a lovely way of naming it. I think you name it like that on your website too, right?
Yeah,
it's become kind of mainstream.
Yeah.
When I started baby wearing Kevin in 2008, it wasn't all that mainstream. Whenever my sister went to LA, the same sister who actually got me the one from Dublin, I had her. I was telling her she went to LA, and my brother was in LA, and so she went over to him, and I said to her, "You have to bring me back an ergo carrier." You couldn't actually get the ergo carriers in Ireland at the time, so she went and got me one in LA. So that's how exactly, that's how long ago that was. Whereas now they're everywhere. Now you can get an ergo baby carrier, which is a proper ergonomic baby carrier in Mothercare, or actually in a lot of baby shops,
I think one of the shops locally has.
Even locally here in Letterkenny. Is it Planet or whatever is Planet Baby or the other one? I don't know. Baby Zone. Baby Zone or Planet Baby. One or the other then. It's one of the ones that are there near Smith's Toys.
Well, if you wanted to get a nicer one, like a Pajella Fusion, you can come to me. So you can go onto my website.
Absolutely. Sorry. But yeah, absolutely. I'm just talking for the mainstream thing of it. Before you get into baby wearing, I think it's really nice that carriers are accessible on the main street.
Oh my God, so important.
Isn't it? But
so whenever you walk in,
much nicer ones available from Deirdre, and I agree. I mean, those ones they're made from wrapping material, aren't they? So when we talk about support and go on, tell us a bit about the Fidelis thing.
So they're just like they use that material from the wrap, but it's like a buckle carrier. So you want that snugness that you get from the wrap material, but you also want to be able to put it on quickly, so you can go on and do your food shopping or whatever it is.
And
or go for a
nice walk. Are the best for that. Buckle carriers are always my favourite. I fell in love with them from the ergo carrier, and then that's what led me to go on and start doing Bunny Baby.
I love wrapping.
You love wrapping, do you?
I love wrapping.
I find it a little bit complicated. I love the support that I got from wrapping, but I just found it took me want to actually get the wrap on me. I quite liked, you know, a Mai Tai is kind of like a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of
Get
the feeling of the wrap and the support. You get a bit of both. Exactly.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah,
nearly.
best of both worlds. I like
They're
Mai
gorgeous.
Tais too.
Yeah.
It's another good
I have
one.
one of them. I call them tie-on carrier because there's so many Mai Tai, fly tie.
And people don't know what it is.
No,
Exactly. So if you want to Google it or go onto Deirdre's website, but if you Google it, Google tie-on carrier and they'll get linked to you, will they? They'll find you.
They might. Yeah. Well, they will if they look onto Doula Deed.
Okay, we'll link all those kind of links. We'll link to the Natural Child Project as well, because that is really, really interesting if you want to look that up. And we'll link to the studies done by Dr. James McKenna, because I think that sometimes it's nice to read the science behind it so that you can really feel confident and not just taking mine and Doula Dee's word for it, right?
Yeah.
So, I hope you enjoyed our Facebook Live today. If you did, please click like below. Also remember that thumbs up time. Also remember that some of the best tips for parenting come from you, the In-Tune Parenting community. So so share what you know in the comments below. Also, if you want to just stay tuned to find out in your email notifications, I'm going to send out an email notification about the guest for next week. So this has been the In-Tune Parenting Facebook Live.